What you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. Can you feel the vibe? Why do you know the night? You really know what's to play. Can you feel the vibe? You wanna make it fit? I'm my soul, I wanna shit over to the retain. As soon as I finish, fucking do me jealous, especially if you reach 70 times. You want me mad, you ain't you right, although you crack me back. I shit jerk. Give it, grenades are hanging on the set. Why are you so sorry? You hurt, and you wait. I'm gonna live real, it's all the way to the back. And you bet, we got the girls thinking of the team. And you can find your rep and see if we get angels. Spinning my ankles, blood and murder. Fuck with Jesus, we be screaming deep in the left, sleep to the rhythm. Club my head, let's get poked for the beats and regions. Have over the years of a rap, working best. Time, finish the rich. So-called critics, and fuck them a bull. And the billboard status get kicked. Then fuck the full wild world that I was a child. And I don't know cows now, doing a trial and now. I got the break, you get on the ground. One of my people who got the around. Remember the same thing, I'm my time. I'm gonna get bitch, I'm gonna be down. And I'm gonna free myself, ready to beat you down. Better than some songs, so the mind you get in them costumes. Bang, bang. I'm a level back, I'm barely been in my crystal steady. You're the joke of the neighborhood. Why should you care if you're feeling good? Take the long way home. Take the long way home. There are times that you feel your heart and the scenery. All the greenery. And then your wife seems to take your part of the furniture. Oh, it's peculiar. She used to be so nice. Lonely days turn to lonely nights. You take a trip to the city lights. Take the long way home. Take the long way home. Never see what you wanna see. Never sing to the gallery. Take the long way home. Take the long way home. So when the day comes, it's ever
folks. I know this seems like this is the end of the video, but really it's going to end up just being the halfway point. And also, I know the title of this video is going to be, you know, Saturday, 8/1/2026. And yes, this portion right here is from Saturday. But when I ended up right here after this little real brief talk, that'll be the end of it for today, you know. But that's not the end of this video. That's just a, you know, I'm filming part of it today, and I'm gonna just get up in the morning and do that second part. You know, where I normally pull something off the shelf and kind of talk about it. I'll do that in the morning since I'm always kind of up early, you know, on the weekends anyways, and I usually end up coming out here to the old shed of dread, kind of assing off a little bit or whatever. So I got a little something else I'm gonna do in addition to just showing you something. I had a guy to break here not too long ago. I come out here, you just snapped in half, so I'm gonna do a repair on him. I'm gonna show you that. I ordered me a kit, you know, a little repair kit not too long ago, so I'll do a repair on him and I'll show you him and another guy, and we'll do that in the morning. But as for today, the actual Saturday portion, this is all I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna got my workout in. I'm not really gonna talk. No point in talking about this workout. It was, you know, chest, man. It's Saturday. That's normally what we do, chest. I was just wiping off. If you're curious, if you seen that look kind of like a brown line right there. Yeah, my you know, my bar. You know, it's an old bar. You know, it's like old school steel. You know, so a little rust residue every now and then when I'm sweating and I'm shirtless, it'll kind of leave that kind of rust imprint across there. So thought it looked kind of stupid, so I was just wiping it off. That's all it was. But yeah, like I said, today, you know, chest, you seen it's all bench press. It's just 6 sets, but it was a pretty decent weight, and you know, a high amount of reps for each set. I feel like, you know, not saying I'm a world record holder for fucking, you know, just, you know, it was a good amount of good weight. Good solid weight, not fucking overdoing it, but not like super light, and a good amount of reps. You know, long enough rep count or repetitions or whatever, you kind of really push you a little bit. So I feel like that, you know, it's good enough. So that's that for today's workout. As far as the week, if you remember the previous week, we kind of dropped any kind of pulling exercises, any kind of curls. We didn't do that. We didn't do our single arm dumbbell rows. We didn't do our bent over rows because my elbow was kind of hurting me, you know, kind of injured, whatever, you know, just kind of fucked up, just put it like that. So and that's the motion that irritated it, you know. I didn't have any problem with the pressing motion, so that's what we kind of did that week right there. Now this last week, you know, was feeling better, you know, but I didn't want to jump all the way straight back into it, so I didn't add back in the single arm dumbbell rows Tuesday with the workout. Thursday came around, I didn't add in, you know, bent over rows. I didn't do that, barbell rows. But what I did do, we kind of utilized something here, you know, I hadn't used it in a while, my resistance bands. And so for Tuesday, I got those single arm kind of pull downs. You know, it's not super heavy weight, but we got some work on the lats, you know, the traps, and it didn't really, you know, irritate my elbow because it was still a little bit lingering around, you know. But I think it should be gone, and I think we should be back on a regular schedule this week coming here. I've been feeling pretty strong last 2.5, 3 weeks, so hopefully that'll continue on. And you know, I think, like I said, this little elbow shit, I think it's about gone. But as for today, which it's a whole day in itself, but in this video, it's just part of the video. So as for today, Saturday, that's going to be it. I'm going to walk on out of here and can carry on with my night, you know, but that won't be the end of the video. We'll kind of fade out, and then we'll come back up, and then we'll do a little time traveling. You know, it'll be Sunday morning. We'll be out here just to do some talking, you know, bullshitting around. Do that little repair and kind of talk about a couple of guys, maybe shoot shit about some other stuff, you know. Nothing too major, man, just kind of hanging out, you know. But anyways, I will give you the salute, even though this is not the end of the video. It's going to be the end of the day as far as this kind of stuff is concerned for me. But technically, from your perspective, I'll see you back here in a couple minutes. But for me, I'll see you tomorrow. So until whenever we do see each other, you know, however it works out in the time continuum, fucking, you know, whatever, you know, till I see you again, folks. Like I always tell you, take it easy. We kind of walked off into the sunset with a cool tune. How about that?
Used to come and get me when it was time to disagree with an enemy. Pass the Hennessy and give me energy. Pack the gat in a small of my back. Where these niggas at? I clear the whole pack. Talking shit.
Just go and hit them with riddles and I'll twiddle my thumbs. My direct connect is gone, but my middleman is about to come with some motro. Oh yo, you know the logo, we hide the mo. Yeah, like Cooper Brown, as we school around. Ain't no time better than this, so let's do it now. Put our shit together now. We got some killer shit. Congregates, all the cycling when we fill up shit. And pull our wigs back, make it a six pack. Damn that bitch, man. Bro, let me get that. We got the host, we got the drinks, we got the draw, we got security, and they knocking at the door, they all the door. We get hot. We get hot. All of a sudden I'm buzzing, I only hit that hoe twice. But if you pass it right back, shit, that'll be so nice, yeah.
So I guess that means the clock starts now as I take a hint. It ain't hard to admit that I'm thinking I can't quit. Cause man, I love to talk and sip. Drug man, fucking trip. Cough one time for people that's over there. I'ma cough 2 times for ladies that's everywhere.
All right, folks. Here I am on a Sunday, you know, this Sunday morning, about 10:20, and just so you know, just Saturday earlier in this video, right? I don't know, that's for whatever reason. I feel like I need to explain that every time I come back, you know, into the video. But like, yeah, we did our workout, earlier portion of the video. That was actually yesterday. It was Saturday, and kind of went over this, you know, at the end of the video, you know, which makes me look stupid because you just heard me talking about it. But, you know, for me, it was all the way yesterday. So, you know, I have the instinctual little feeling or need to explain it again. So bear with me, folks. I'm sorry. But you know what? We'll just try to cut it off right there. You know, we know what we're here for, right? We know what day it is and all that shit. But today, it's, I have my fans off, hopefully. It ain't too hot, you know. Like I said, it's about 10:20. It ain't too hot. It just rained not too long ago, you know, and it looks like it probably gonna rain a little later on, which you know it wouldn't be too bad if I had a little drizzle. That'd be a nice little audio, you know, aesthetic to have there in the background. Just saying that to say, I'm gonna leave the fans off, you know, since it ain't too hot, you know, it is kind of warm, but boy, I won't have to do, you know, try to do too much editing to the audio, and you know, maybe we'll get a little rain in the background. It won't interfere too bad. I always like the way that sounds, but yeah, today, like we already kind of went over, and we'll be doing a repair on the guy, and then we'll probably, you know, let you see him all put back together and all that. But here he is, half of him anyway, and that is Blowtorch. You know, I've had him for a little minute now. He was one of, you know, I was very fond of him. I just ain't got to him yet, but we'll talk, you know, show you him and another guy. But first portion of this little talk is I'm not gonna try. You know, I used to do this when I was a kid, but I'm gonna, you know, take them apart because what's happened here is they got a little O-ring on the inside of them that attaches their upper body to the lower body. It also allows, you know, all the good movement and articulation, if you will. And the O-ring, you know, it's pretty much rubber, so over time it's gonna wear out. So that happens. But they pop, and nowadays, you know, maybe they had this stuff back then when I was a kid, I don't know, but nowadays they got a little kit. When I got me one on, just went on eBay, it wasn't but a couple of bucks, less than $10, I believe. It had a bunch of O-rings in it, little screws, and I had 2 screwdrivers, 2 little small screwdrivers. But I used to put these things back together as a kid, man, you know. As long as you got your little household rubber band or something, you can double that over and it can serve the same purpose as that O-ring. And I remember my dad and stepdad, you know, whatever. Um, he always had, well, he had tools. He knew how to work on shit. He's a real handy guy, you know. And he always had like a little small setup, small screwdrivers. They're probably, you know, just working on little bitty shit, I guess, you know, whatever little small screws. But you know, he always had that, and he'd let me use it, and he showed me how to do it or whatever. And from then on, when I was fixing them, you know, even swapping out parts sometimes and kind of making new guys, you know. But we're gonna kind of break from here and fade off, and then we'll fade back or, you know, come back up. Just kind of move the camera around a little bit. I got like a little, makes, you know, little workstation set up here, you know, just so you can get a view of what I'm doing and, you know, taking shit apart. If anybody is curious, you know, if they kind of, you know, maybe they got a G.I. Joe and it's, you know, maybe they didn't have these as little kids. Maybe they're, you know, a younger adult and he's a collector and they started getting these. They don't know much about them, you know, one of them breaks one day, you know. How you fix it, kids, okay? So we'll fade from here and come back up, putting him back together now. All right, folks. Put my little stuff up here. I can be more comfortable. Okay. We got this like a little kind of a makeshift little table here, kind of so you can kind of get a view, you know, of what I'm doing here. And I'll get to it just in just a second, folks. I promise, you know. You have to bear with me a little bit. If I kind of get off track, you know what I mean, kind of lose my train of thought for a second here or there. Been to the bakery this morning, so like I said, just bear with me. Okay, like I said, I come out one day to the shed, and he was just up there, kind of, you know, apart. You know, of course, I've already taken his little accessories off, so just him. And you know, basically what had happened was the O-ring in there, folks. It's a little O-ring in there. It's probably dry rotted, just snapped or whatever. Maybe the heat got to it because it does get humid out here. I think after that, okay, what I'm gonna do right here, folks. Excuse me. But after that, I kind of started leaving the fan on, at least try to get a little air circulating in here. Maybe, you know, maybe that helped the guys out. You know, I don't want everybody just snapping in half in here. But it's okay. Of course, there's like I said, let's get to it. I'll do the best I can to explain this. It ain't really, not really complicated, but there's a little screw in there. So this is one of the screwdrivers that came with my little kit. But of course, you can get you a little small set of screwdrivers and do this. You want to get up in there. I've already kind of pre-loosened him up. And this little screw comes right on out. Right? Try to set it somewhere so we don't lose it. What I'll do is I'll use the back of his backpack here. Sit it in there. That way it won't roll off nowhere. Now, okay, it's pretty much, we can take him apart. Just going to take that upper body. That torso there just kind of popped open there. And there's the culprit, folks. The old broken O-ring. Okay, not a big deal. So now, let you get a little anatomy of these guys. His head right there. His head will also come right on out. See, there's the front of his torso there. And that's what the inside of it looks like. Of course, that's his back right there. So the inside of it looks like. And of course, it just goes back together like that. Of course, you put the arms and the legs and the head. Well, the arms and the head is pretty simple. Put that all back together. That's how it goes. That's kind of how it goes together. Upper body. And also just kind of show you that as you can kind of like I did when I was younger, kind of make different guys. Change out their arms and legs and shit, and even their heads. If you want to. But nowadays, I don't really do that. I like to stick to the original. All right. Try not to just drag this out and make this too long, but I'm not in no big rush, man. Maybe it turns out to be a long video, I don't know. But I like to take little breaks. It's okay, man. I'm not on the fucking clock, so just bear with me, folks. Or you can fast forward if you want to. Well, I believe, YouTube's even got that feature where you can play the video at 2 times the speed. Might sound a little funny, but I think you can still understand what I'm saying. But I will put in a diligent effort here, folks, and try not to just intentionally take too damn long. It's not really a big, hard job to do, so we'll bang it on out. This part is a little bit. It can get a little stressful, I guess, but not too much. Okay. So now what you're going to want to do is of course, that way over here, Anna. You got my new O-ring here. What you want to do here, this is his back, and this is the part, this little, kind of see that it sticks out. That's the part that's gonna, that's how, the O-ring is going to be over in his upper body. Now, it's been a while, like I said, it's been a while since I've done this, so I might have to do it and undo it a couple times. Because you may have to be on the legs first and then put them up there. We'll see. But then down here, folks, this is his legs. See that little hook? And his little upper body, little, I guess, butt part there will sit over his legs right there, like that. And what you want to do, that little hook is what hooks on to the O-ring. I might have to push the O-ring up through this. Hopefully, if I get too fucking off too bad, it'll be some little cuts here, in and out, and you know what I mean? I'll have to do what I have to do. Alright. What I'm going to do here is just use a little screwdriver, pull that little O-ring on up. Alright, there you go. Hey, wasn't too bad. Now you've got that. Hopefully I can see that. I'm trying to fucking see because I'm getting my own arm in my damn way. But there, see? You got the bottom part assembled. Now what you want to do now, like that peg, that little kind of peg sticking out I showed you earlier. Now you want to get that there. Okay. See if we can do a little rearranging, give you a little view of what the hell I'm doing. Hopefully, Hopefully, guys. Fuck. Okay, you have to be upside down. Okay, whatever. Fuck. You can fucking see. Best I can do. I got kind of big hands. It's small little shit. But you see now I've got the O-ring is attached to the little hook inside of his, his butt there or whatever, his crotch piece. Pull it up through and it goes over that, right? And then these little slots here. Damn, folks. That's where his arm and his head's gonna go, right? Trick to this, it can be a little aggravating if you're getting too big of a hurry. Just keeping that O-ring. You don't want the O-ring to pop off while you're trying to damn put his shit back together. Alright, here's what we'll do. We'll lay him down flat. Yeah, might be a little zoom fast forward in this part here, folks. We'll see. This is the part here that's getting a little tedious. I think we can handle it. Okay. Alright, folks. Pretty much got him. I can slip this damn breastplate over him. I think we can. Might just have to close it up on him. Okay. Good. It's not a big deal, but you know, he's back together other than his arm, and I'll just kind of open the side of him up over here a little bit and get that arm in the joint. And we'll have him back together. But you know, I don't know, being an adult and having slightly bigger hands is making this a little more tedious than I remember it being as a kid. I think that's probably really what all it is. But if I can get this little slot just open up enough to stick this arm in here without taking him back apart, that's what I want to do. I think we about got it, folks. Come on. Come on, blowtorch, you son of a bitch. Oh, come on, dude. Just let me put this fucking arm in there. Got him. Got him, folks. Thought I was going to have a little mini meltdown there, but goddamn it, hell, I worked for it, folks. All right, now see, now he's all back together, and I can kind of let him go and stand around if I wanted to, but we don't want to do that and risk nothing popping apart or anything. So now all we got to do now, folks, is kind of get that screw in his back. Just once you get it down in there, you get it down in there, that's it. Tighten him on down. Look at that. He's good as new, folks. Good as new. That's O-ring put back in there. And he's back, folks. He's back from the dead. Alright, so this here is this old O-ring will dispose of that. This is the little kit I have ordered. Real cheap. Got it on eBay. It's got another little screwdriver that's slightly a different size. Got a bunch of little replacement screws in there. So I'll put this back in here and drop it on the floor. But I put it back in there, you know, kind of sticking on my little utility shelf back there. It ain't nothing really collectible back there. That's pretty practical everyday shit, you know, that I might have to use. That way we won't lose this, but we've done the old surgery and got the old fella back together. Wasn't too bad. Didn't even take quite as long as I thought it would. Hopefully, you know, couldn't quite really watch what I was doing on the screen while I was doing it. Some of it's kind of tedious. I ain't gonna lie, folks. It's been a long time since I did that, but hopefully I was able to capture what I actually fucking did, you know, and it ain't just a bunch of, you know what I mean? Okay, we'll break from here and I'll come back and, you know, kind of talk about this guy and another guy. And I think that'll put the wraps on this video, folks.
Won't you come see about me? I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby.
Tell me your troubles and doubts, given everything inside and out. Love strange, so real in the dark. Think of the tender things that we were working on. Slow change may pull us apart. When the light gets in your heart, baby, don't you forget about me. Don't.
You wonder what the hell they do that for, you know? I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know why I thought to do that when I was coming back. To kind of have the smoke, you know, blow my smoke on them. Thought maybe it'd look cool, but I got to think about it. Hell, I don't know. I could edit that up into something, you know, a little short or some shit. I don't know. No big deal. But all right, folks. Just finished up that little repair. Wasn't even that bad, folks. I didn't get to cussing nothing out or fucking flipping over tables or nothing. So, but like I said, I used to do that as a kid. I just hadn't done it in a real long time. And I think the same deal is like when I first ordered, you know, the first G.I. Joe I got, when I started getting into this, kind of going back collecting them, gung ho. I remember when I first got him, thinking, is this some kind of a fucking like a counterfeit or something? I don't remember being this damn little. And my wife had to tell me, well, you know, you're a grown man now with pretty big hands, and probably remembering them, you know, as a kid. So, you know, I can understand it now, you know, why it was a little aggravating. Cause my hands are bigger, and you know, it's just little shit to be working on, whatever. But here he is, you know, the fella we just finished up on, and you know, got him a while back, like I said. I think I pretty much got all of his accessories. He might have had like another little gun or something. And I know I didn't get his helmet. He's supposed to have a helmet on top of his head. You know, I got his mask, all his little hoses and stuff. His hose goes back here to his for his gun, to his fuel pack. And yeah, there's his mask, got the hose thing going to it, the little thing in his chest right there. We're supposed to have a helmet. I didn't get the helmet, you know, maybe one day. But the figure was in real good shape, you know, as you can see, you know. Before I get to talking too much about them, I'll go ahead and, you know, just put them side by side. And to me, I always thought this was kind of crazy, but okay, let's go ahead and get their names out there and tell you who we're talking about here. The guy here, we were just repaired. His name is Blowtorch, and he's, you know, a flamethrower operator, flamethrower guy. You know, he's G.I. Joe. Both these guys are G.I. Joes, are good guys. And this guy over here, I wasn't able to get any of his accessories. You know, he had a real cool, like, little axe with like where the handle had like a brass knuckle kind of grip on it with spikes on it. And I think he had some kind of gun or something too, you know. And this backpack here is actually an extra that they sent me with him, and it looks like they made, you know, of course it's a different color, so maybe they had, you know, got it 3D printed somewhere, and you just had an extra and put it in there for me. You know, I appreciate it, but that doesn't even really go with him. I didn't get any of his accessories, and I can't remember what they were other than the axe. I remember, you know, that damn axe because I always thought it was kind of cool. But the flamethrower operator, you know, flamethrower guy, and this guy his name was Barbecue, and he's a fucking firefighter. Now, don't it look like, you know, and I'm not knocking these because I love these guys, you know, but I don't know, I just always kind of thought he looked more like a damn flamethrower operator, you know, that he should be doing that shit. And him, especially with his uniform, you know, he looked more like a damn firefighter, but it is indeed the opposite, folks. But, you know, I'll give you some, I wasn't able to get fucking file cards and all that shit. That was fine. I've had these guys for a while. Kind of just hadn't got to them, you know. But I always knew when I did get to these guys, I'd, you know, probably, you know, show them to y'all together, because I remember having them maybe at the same time when I was young, or at least for a period, I had them together, you know. And I always thought they should kind of be together. They just kind of look like they should, you know. But even though they look like they should be opposite, like he should be the flamethrower operator and he should be the firefighter. But they're still two of my favorite guys. And bear with me, folks. Like I said, I know I've said it plenty of times, but you know, if you don't mind, bear with me a little bit there. Just getting to these guys, I want to kind of get I don't want to guess, and I really don't feel like these guys are all like on the inside of their leg, and I don't know if you can see my finger back here, but kind of on the inside of their leg, they got kind of their date when they was made and all that, I just kind of want to pick that information. That's just a little bit of information I can give about these guys. Okay, found him. Like I was talking about, this guy here, Blowtorch, was the flamethrower operator guy for the GI Joes, and he is a 1984 Joe. Okay. I remember the town I lived in when I had both of these guys, and if you can think back just a few minutes, the song that was playing when the kind of video came back up, and you seen these guys, that Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me from the Breakfast Club, that song there, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I can't explain why, but these guys, that song, that town, that period of time that I lived there, that all, I don't know, it always seemed like, looking back on it, that was like the theme song for that portion of the 80s that I lived there. And it was a real kind of a small town, not super small, it wasn't fucking Mayberry. It was not like we had one fucking, traffic light and one store, it wasn't like that, but it wasn't just some huge city. But, that was one of my favorite places that I lived when I was young, and that was Petal, Mississippi. And looking back on it, it was just that, when you imagine the perfect, American dream, fucking family type shit, the kids all playing in the neighborhood and riding bikes, there wasn't no white picket fence and all that shit, but, that's kind of closest thing I, ever got to that. And it was just like that too, man, living in Petal, the little neighborhood I lived in, bunch of kids, we were always riding bikes, playing kickball, off in the woods, building like little forts and shit, and, it was around first and second grade, a little bit of kindergarten too, probably. Maybe maybe all of kindergarten, first grade, and part of second grade I spent there. But I remember having him. He always stuck in my memory. The colors and how he looked, his uniform. I always just thought was, I remember just kind of looking at him sometimes, And I do that with a lot of these guys when I was small, and I do it now, But it's kind of weird that I remember doing that as a kid. Of course I played with them. That's what I got them for. But like sometimes, I don't know, I guess that was just like the child, in me, like appreciating the work that went into this. Because I don't know, man. Let me like I said, I've been to the bakery this morning, folks. I don't want to try not to get off track and rant too much. But yeah, I remember being in Petal, having this guy, being super stoked about it, Man, at that time when I was getting, the guys that I was getting at that time and that time period, that's like elite level, like childhood for me, man. The years in Petal, Mississippi, that to me, man, thinking back on that, the Christmas, I remember the Christmas I got the bike, that's like elite level childhood, for me right there, man. That might have been, I ain't gonna say it's the best because I had a lot of great times in different places, but man, sometimes when you close your eyes, you can kind of, it's almost like you can kind of get there for a second, but not quite, and it's always nice, but also disappointing at the same time, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that's Blowtorch, I always thought he was a cool figure, really enjoyed him as a kid, and he's easily a top 10 guy, and we'll just, since, and he'll kind of take a back seat now, since we'll move on to my friend here. Young man named Barbecue. He's a 1985 G.I. Joe, and like I said, he was the firefighter. Even though he kind of looked more like the Blowtorch operator, but he was the firefighter of G.I. Joes. And like I said, 1985 Joe, around that same time period, I'm pretty sure I had these guys together in that elite childhood era right there in Petal, Mississippi. And I'm pretty sure that these guys had some adventures and shit together, and I have I remember feeling the same way about him. He was another one of them guys. Like I have like little glimpse memories of being a kid and just not necessarily, of course, memories of playing with him, but like also those little glimpse memories where I would just kind of just look at him and appreciate him, man. Even back then as a little kid. But I remember having him, and I have like kind of like a little flash memory of having him in class, because I'd do shit like that, all the way up to like third and fourth grade, I'd, have a couple G.I. Joes in my pocket. Get a little playtime in, But I mean, I made it through school, so I guess it didn't interfere too damn bad. But I do have a real kind of a flash memory. You know what I mean? It's not real vivid and long, but it's the little glimpse of it is like kind of real detailed, and so it was, kind of happened, or it was at least based off a true memory, happening that happened, whatever. But yeah, I remember having him. And I think that might have been one of them moments where I was just kind of looking at him because I couldn't do too much. You can't, you don't want to get your shit took in class, so you don't want to get caught with it. So sometimes, it wouldn't. I'd take him with me, of course, and sometimes I wouldn't play with him. I just, when I had a little free spare moment or whatever, and teacher wasn't looking over whatever, I was just looking at him, man, just appreciating him. I remember that a moment with him like that in kindergarten in Petal, Mississippi. But yeah, that's a barbecue. Again, him too, easily a top 10 guy. One of the coolest looking, to me. I always liked all the guys with the mask, any kind of mask you had. Even though that's kind of technically a mask. I don't really mean that. I mean the one that kind of like his head is a fucking mask, like the divers. Him, of course, Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, all those guys. But I think the thing about the divers that I kind of like, that I kind of appreciated with the mask on them is like once I lost them little flippers, they become ninjas then. You know what I mean? They're not a fucking diver anymore. You got their damn flippers, or they could be ninjas right off the bat if I wanted them to, But I always remember him being one of my favorites back then in that little time period. And that is barbecue, folks, in 1985 G.I. Joe. Top 10 guys, both of these guys. Easily top 10 guys. And I ain't gonna necessarily do it today because I don't want to run too long, but one day I'll and I ain't really necessarily finished neither, like kind of arranging these guys. And I know there'll be more to come, and so there'll be more rearrangements, but the Joes up there got their side and Cobra's got their side. And everybody seems kind of sectioned off like a little friend groups. I know like on the Cobra side, all the dreadnoughts are like grouped over with themselves in the corner, but it's kind of like that too. Just using the space best I can, but not that fucking the grouping I have them in is like from some lore from the comic book. It's not based on nothing. It's just like who I felt like looking at the guys would be hanging out. So these guys here, they are posted up together over there. I ain't gonna, like I said, I ain't gonna, do all that shit today. You may or may not have noticed them up there, before in the past, but that'll be the final shot, Like I said, I don't want to run too long, and we'll just take it out from there, folks. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. I'm glad the repair went well and I didn't fucking rage out in here. G Fuel, Sonic the Hedgehog, Peachy Rings. Man, it's one of my favorites, man. And that's just me personally, folks. Don't run out there and grab one and then be like, this tastes like shit. Hey, like I said, it's one of my personal favorites. But that's a pretty good start to a morning, folks. Let's try to wrap it up. Really trying to focus on wrapping it up here, because I don't script anything, folks. When I come out here and cut this camera on, I kind of try to have an idea of what I'm going to say, and kind of go, but I'm pretty much going with the flow, folks. And as you can see, I'm not some trained fucking public speaker. But at least it's authentic, you know what I mean? But like I said, these two guys here, top 10 guys, that period of time in my life, when I had these guys as a child, elite level childhood, Petal, Mississippi. gang of kids on bikes, you know, in the neighborhood playing kickball. No little fun fact, funny thing to me, anyways. You just couldn't probably. It'd be frowned upon in these days, but like kids when we, back then in that period, we played kickball, baseball, football, whatever, out there. And there was another game we played too, where I moved around a lot, and it's a common game with boys. I've heard it mostly called, amongst other places that I've been where it wasn't called what we called it. Throw them up, bust them up. And basically, you got a football and a bunch of guys, but there's no team. Somebody just throws the ball up in the air. Somebody catches it. Whoever catches it, everybody got to try to tackle him. Well, and that's your chance to be Barry Sanders, or either get your ass, tackled or whatever. We used to play that, but we called it. And I especially pinned this back on the Petal, Mississippi days. I specifically remember playing that, in the front yard and shit. And at my house or, one of the other guys' house. It was a smear the queer, Basically, I guess the guy with the ball was a queer and everybody, supposed to smear him, But of course, even though there's no intention toward that whatsoever, nowadays that would be taken as hate speech and that, blah, blah, blah. That's why everything was just so much better back then. Nobody really fucking hated anybody about nothing, really. But the shit that the fucking phrases and shit, nowadays standards would be something hateful, but I don't want to get all into that, folks. I want to dampen our, little talk here or elongate it any more than it already is. Blowtorch and barbecue, top 10 guys, great period of my childhood when I had those guys. And, we'll just leave it at that, folks. But I'll reminisce back on that period of time when I was a child quite often, and I'm very fond of it. Not to say there's other, everything else sucked. I had, plenty of great memories, but, that period of time right there really sticks out to me. So, that's it, folks. I'll sign it off right here, and we'll go out with that kind of theme song for that period of time for me, and that period of the 80s for me, as a child. But yeah, I enjoyed this, folks. Until I see y'all again, I'm gonna go in here and enjoy the rest of my Sunday. I'm not gonna get back into all that Saturday, Sunday shit. We'll leave it at that. But till we see each other again, folks, like I always tell you, take it easy.
When you stand above me, look my